Three. Folks, welcome back to So Bad It's Good, presented by Betches Media. Today, we have a guest. I'm so happy to talk to him. It's been a minute since I've talked to him before. You might know him as a defense and civil litigation attorney, but he has made so many national media appearances. He is a legal expert commentator, but also has some personal investment in the Erica Jayne, Tom Girardi, all of this business that's been going on for years and years. Oh, and today we actually had breaking news that Tom Girardi was found guilty of wire fraud on 4 separate counts. So here to make heads or tails of this, we have Mr. Ronald Richards back with us. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, Ryan, what's happening?
Listen, I don't know what's happening. It feels like too much is happening. After a 12 or 13-day trial, the jury, it seemed like they barely deliberated, but they came back with guilty on all 4 counts of wire fraud. Is that correct?
Yes. I mean, they didn't need to deliberate that much because they spent yesterday deliberating, and there's an old expression that was coined by Leslie Abramson, who was the Menendez brothers' lawyers. The road to state prison is paved with defendants testifying. It's still a great expression, but I can tell you that him getting on the stand must have been some suicide mission, that his public defender could not control him because he probably said he wants to testify, and he thought maybe he would sound so kooky that the jurors would believe the dementia line. Huge mistake, stupid as hell. I feel bad for the public defender because if the client wants to testify, you have no discretion. You have to let him testify. But the problem then is the jury found him to be a liar by the verdict, and he has no way of winning the case now on appeal. Zero chance.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that. And now they're not going to sentence. I guess sentencing is in December. And now they're saying he could get upwards of 20 years in prison. And this is where I get confused is he's 85 years old. There does seem to be something wrong with him, deeply wrong. I don't know how much of it is an act and how much of it isn't. What do you predict in terms of sentencing, and will he see jail time?
Well, he's going to see jail time for sure. But the question really is, how much jail time do you want to give an 85-year-old that is obviously suffering from mental illness? I mean, at sentencing, all of this becomes relevant, his dementia, because what the issue was at the time of the fraud, he had capacity, much better capacity. But the judge has to now look at that there's some compassionate issues here. He is very old. He obviously is suffering from a mental decline. And, a 5-year sentence is a long time for an 85-year-old. But, I mean, look, Madoff is going to die in prison, or died. Maybe he died.
Yeah, he died, yeah.
So Girardi is going to maybe die in prison, too. And, by the way, they don't want to put him in prison yet because he has a case in Chicago still. So that's
what I read.
There's no point in – it's a sad state of affairs a little bit, but not really, because – he was responsible for all the client money. I mean, what people don't understand is, like a drug problem, or you start to lose it problem, or you have too many creditor problems, is never an excuse to invade the trust account. And sometimes you just get convicted because who else is responsible but you? So, that doesn't mean he has to have perfect capacity to get convicted. He had enough to know he wanted to take the witness stand, and that was a stupid idea, because there's no question some of his testimony was kind of good for him until he started getting, pulverized on cross.
Now, is that just like the ego of a man that had done it so long and had been so successful? Is that what that is? Just like that last bit of ego going up there and thinking that he can make it right?
In this case, since I've spoken to him on the phone before Erica's depot, and I
remember that. Oh, wow. Yeah.
I don't think so. If you want me to be honest with the viewers, I just think it's a man that is on the mental decline, and he probably was like, wait a second, I didn't steal this money, and I didn't mean to steal it. but I probably did steal it. He probably just got up and figured I'll just charm the jury because he did it all his career. But this is not a civil case. It's not a personal injury case, and he's the defendant, not the plaintiff's counsel. So he should have just shut up and try to create reasonable doubt, but he didn't. And that's the problem for Mr. Girardi on this case, is that, it was literally like one of the stupidest things I've ever seen in criminal defense history for him to testify in a dementia case where he's then going to show the jury that he's not totally out of it. He should have just been sitting there drooling. That's what I would have done. If I was his private counsel, I would have said, just sit there and go like this. I had a client once with a tic, and no one ever said he had a tic. And during closing argument, he was twitching and going crazy. And the juror said, how could nobody see that tic? Of course he's innocent. He's so identified. And he was twitching, ticking. And, we got to not guilty, because I told him, you're not testifying for sure. I mean, that's the thing. You're already presumed innocent. The jurors aren't allowed to discuss it. You don't need to get up on the stand and say, I didn't do it. Only in like a sex crime case where it's he said, she said, is it almost mandatory, but not in a case like this.
So the Los Angeles Times says this was for like a period of 10 years from 2010 onwards. And I think they said upwards of $15 million. But then I was confused because didn't he actually deposit $25 million into EJ Global? And that's where Erica had gotten involved back in the day?
No. Where they showed EJ Global was to kind of dirty him up, to show that in my lawsuit that I filed for the trustee, they used the exact same evidence. Basically, the firm transferred $25 million of value to EJ Global to pay Erica's expenses. And so he's trying to show this guy's a joke. He knew all this time he's paying his wife's service company for her dancing and singing and acting with client money. And, it's a huge number. And who does that? Because it was such a big number. What guy spends $25 million from his law firm on his wife's acting company? I mean, I'm just telling you, that is an unusual fact. And ultimately, it will bury Erica, that she will never be able to justify receiving $25 million. And for the 10,000th time, because someone's going to say this, it doesn't matter what was in her head. It matters, did she receive the money for no consideration? What did she give the law firm for $25 million? The answer is zero.
Wow. Now, okay. But this case wasn't about Erica, obviously, but it is interesting because there are still so many little loose ends with Erica. I mean, the last time I talked to you years ago, it was still over the diamond earrings. I mean, the diamond earrings were involved, and now we have something in regards to the American Express bill in terms of the two costumers that is moving forward. So Erica still has a lot of cases that are open against her. Does this case here, does this conviction do anything to Erica at all, or does it kind of put a shiver up her spine knowing that she is potentially going to pay for this as well?
The conviction is important from Erica's perspective, because the $25 million was mentioned in the criminal trial, and it's front and center. And at the end of this week, the trustee has to file. I'm not the trustee. Erica's lawyers have to file their response to the trustee's motion on the earrings. The earrings are going to be front and center very soon, all over again, where they were able to show in their supplemental papers that the money for the earrings was so inextricably mixed up and commingled in the trust account that Erica can't prove that the money was not from clients. And so the trustee is going to argue, and did argue with evidence, that the money for the earrings is property of the estate. And so Erica's going to have to now file a response as to why that money was not property of the estate. So I don't want to bore the viewers with the intricacies of
this isn't boring. This is kind of fascinating. I just always wonder who's paying for all of this, because legal representation is not cheap. I cannot imagine.
Erica has a true believer, a benefactor that believes that the whole bankruptcy was a sham. In fact, he even liked my post on Instagram today. He's right on there, and he believed that he wants to expose everything for a fraudulent bankruptcy, and he is a smart guy that has a lot of money, and he's paying for it, and that's just how it is. She's lucky that he's around.
So you know this benefactor, and he knows you.
Of course, I've talked to him many, many times, and of course I know him.
Are we allowed to have the benefactor's name, or is that off?
Well,
not?
He's out there. He's easy to find. Believe me, I'll let you find him. It's not.
I'm gonna go to your Instagram post after we talk and just go through everybody. But that's really interesting.
He's not hard to find, but I don't want to get on his bad side. Because in the case I had with some of the lawyers that lost money with Tom, there was a couple rulings where we agreed not to publish the benefactor's bank information. So publicly, I always say, just look on the internet, and then I'm not involved. You're doing your own research, but it's easy to find. There's been many articles, papers. He's pictures of him walking with her. It's so easy to find. He's a lawyer, but I'm not going to out him. Let you do the research. But again, I like the guy. He has his own view, and he's been paying for this for years. And that's why Erica has a great deal. Why I've told everybody, and why I'm glad I'm not dealing with this, is she's never going to settle as long as someone's paying top dollar for all her legal fees. What's her incentive to settle? Nothing.
Yeah. Well, I want to say I like this guy too. So leave me alone, this guy, if you're listening.
I'm not going to get involved with him, except I do love talking to him. And I keep saying, send me the info so I can analyze it and publicly comment on it. And so he said it takes a while to put it all together, but there's no issues with him. And, it is what it is.
Now, they had a lot of the victims at the trial speak, and this is what it's all about, is the victims. Now, we're going to potentially see jail time for Tom Girardi, but in terms of restitution, where are we at with the victims and all of these funds that were misappropriated?
Nowhere. They're going to issue a restitution order. They're going to post it on the wall. He has nothing.
That's nothing.
Social Security, nothing. Everything's gone. It's a waste of time going after him. The only pocket left is Erica.
So even things like the earrings, where did we wind up with the earrings? And would that money go directly to the victims? How does that all?
It would go to the estate. By the way, the money already went to the estate, Ryan. If Erica gets it reversed, Erica would love to have the buyer give her back the earrings so she can wear them. But I don't think the buyer is going to do that. That's just if I had to bet, I would say that's never going to happen. And unless the United States Supreme Court denies certiorari, that buyer will never give back those earrings off her ears. Secondly, the estate would have to give back the money that was sold from the buyer's proceeds. And I don't think the estate's going to do that until the United States Supreme Court denies certiorari. So I don't think when I say that, the joke is it'd have to appeal all the way up there to the highest court in the land before anybody does anything. But Erica's, she wants to get value for those earrings and have the estate actually pay her for the earrings. That's what's going on now.
This is all such a sad story, but I also think in terms of like the California, like the Bar Association, they had proven that they were like involved in this in some ways. Is there any kind of after effects that will be like put into place now in terms of misappropriation and client funds? Like, is there anything we're going to send Tom Girardi away, but is the greater purpose of this is to like put some laws on the book so this doesn't happen at all?
The bar made it, not even worth having a trust account. Like, you have to do a reporting. It's so much paperwork. It's not even worth it. Almost every case I ever have, the rare ones I have a settlement, I say, send the check to the client. I don't even want the money going into my office anymore just because of all the reporting. Just send it to the client. I charge the client and say, send it to the client. Like it's very rare now that there's any, reporting anymore.
Well, first off, why did you get into law in the first place? And do you still have the same love for it? Because it seems like just such a tangled web. Every time I've talked to you, I get nervous because it just seems like such intensity that you have to deal with and all lawyers have to deal with.
I got into law, because I wasn't good in business school. At the time, I couldn't pass calculus. But now I went back to business school. They waived the requirement. So I guess if they didn't have a calculus requirement in 1994, I would have went to business school. But I would say that, I like criminal defense. I got a lot of practice on, when I started practicing, marijuana was a felony, if you could believe it. Now it's legal. And people used to go to jail for friggin' dope. So I had a lot of fun beating up police on different things where they overextended on marijuana cases and, individual liberties. And then finally the Republicans championed legalization. So then it became okay. I always tell everyone, if Republicans are pro-drugs, then it all goes away. You have to get them focused on things. And then once there's a money machine, everything is legal. I mean, that's why I'm laughing with ketamine, and Matthew Perry, not of course.
Oh, the ketamine. Yeah, that's a big thing on the books.
That was one of my first early cases. I represented Vidal Sassoon's daughter, I represented her. She was charged with delivering ketamine, and we had a weird law in California. It wasn't a misdemeanor; it was only a felony. And so I ended up, having to deal with a felony case of one of the wealthiest families in LA. And, they tried to charge her with distribution. I kept saying, no, she uses it. She's not distributing. She can buy 4 containers of it. So I'm just saying, but dope, unfortunately, in California has become, we're not throwing people away forever now, where before it used to be ridiculous. So that's why I got into it. To answer your question, is I liked the challenge of that. I was on the UCLA debate team, and I liked, helping people. But then I got tired of dealing with criminals. It was just too much, and all their shenanigans. And I hate fraud cases. I don't like fraudsters. So I felt like my heart wasn't into it. I couldn't defend fraudsters as well as I should have, because I felt like, that I would see the victims of these cases, and it made me feel. So then I went over to basically suing fraudsters. It made me feel better, because I would, because I could get money for victims.
Yeah.
I really don't like defending fraudsters, just because I see the damage they cause people. So that's why I stopped doing that.
Yeah.
I don't do animal cases or environmental crimes either, because I won't be tenacious. So you don't want me as your lawyer. If you pollute the earth or kill or hurt dogs and cats, forget it. I'm not going to represent you.
Mr. Girardi, I mean, obviously when taking the stand and thinking you can control a narrative and all of this, but one of the things that they knocked him on, and especially the jury came back and said it was easy to convict. And also they pointed out the fact that he would kind of guilt his clients of like, be nice to me. He would always say, come on, be nice to me, be nice to me. And that really offended the jurors from the Los Angeles Times article I read. And I thought that was so interesting, is that he would take business and law and then personalize it and, use himself and like try to present himself as a victim and be nice to me. Is that normal for a lawyer?
No. And what else he would do that was reprehensible is he would say, the mediator said you can't have your money yet because I need to invest it. He would do conflicted transactions. I mean, no, Girardi lost his moral compass long before he lost his marbles. That's what I can tell you.
I always want to know what
I saw the symptoms. I started, when I started targeting him like I did Michael Avenatti, you start seeing civil suits against lawyers for shit that lawyers would never do. Like, what do you mean you didn't like, the minute you hear a lawyer didn't issue a check from the trust account, right away something's wrong. Like that, it's not your money. It's like me going into your bank account and taking your money. It's not your money. If someone put a gun to my head, I would not take money out of the trust account. It's not my money. I would take money out of my account.
He used the excuse that he was like doing that for their benefit. I don't want to give you all the money because you're going to blow it somewhere. And then he was blowing it somewhere.
Yeah.
For a while with the Bravo audience, which I really speak to a lot of, is that, you were really kind of entangled. There was almost this kind of battle. We were perceiving this battle between you and Erica Jayne. At a certain point, was this a great white whale for you? Or was this just like another Monday back in the day when you were really kind of going after all of this stuff?
Well, it was part of a litigation strategy, but then, and I was almost about to break her, but then, there was other lawyers that were suing her, and I was trying not to get her distracted. And then, we started having tension about who's going to sue her first. And then the trustee was way too hypersensitive about any little bad press, which I get, because it's a government position. But it made me realize that 3 years later, we're not going to be even close to it, getting the money or a trial date. And I'm on a contingency. So I have to say sayonara. Like, it's still a business. Like, I'm not going to donate 3 years of my life because you won't let me use my normal pressure tactics. And Erica, the constant pounding in public statements was getting to her where I knew I could break her and settle the case. But then I got the rug pulled out for me, telling me I can't do this. I got to slow down. And I'm like, no. The only thing this woman cares about is her brand. If you keep it quiet, she's just going to forever delay. And now, of course, we're here 3 years later, and where are we? Nowhere. No trial date, nothing. This thing is not going to go to trial until 2026.
Well, I mean, in a way, you got to
5 years she'll have delayed this.
But see, it worked. And because last season of Beverly Hills, when she was on it, this wasn't a storyline anymore. She's been able to go on her way, kind of build herself back up. And now she's almost kind of considered like a folk hero. Like people are like, oh, she had a really good season. Maybe it was all Tom Girardi. So that's interesting to think she still at some point will have to answer for this money. And Tom's answering right now. Is there anybody else? Like Girardi Keese is no longer, but that
was never a real company. That was just a DBA. Yeah, you have Chris Kamen and David Lira. Chris is indicted in the same case. They got severed, and David Lira is indicted with Girardi in Chicago. Yeah,
because that's a Boeing one where they didn't pay out the money that Boeing paid them to the victims. So I'm really curious. So he potentially is going to get 20 years for this, and then whatever happens in Chicago, which I would imagine he would be guilty for as well. And then I just really don't know the logistics of an 85-year-old man even putting them in prison, of how that even works, because that would cost the taxpayer even more, I would imagine, for the specialized care he will need.
Well, yeah, and you know that there is a provision that you can get someone out of prison on compassionate use or compassionate discharge. Because they're too old. Look, that doesn't mean you don't convict them. That doesn't mean that there's not victims. That doesn't mean they have to get it out. I mean, people lost a lot of money because of him, but a lot of these people did get money back from the estate. Rue Gomez got a lot of money back from the estate.
Oh, good.
So money, it's not everybody's a victim here with no remedy, but the real, Erica has to pony up and give back some of that $25 million. So I'm not upset that she's made money on the show, but she's never going to do it. She's just going to delay unless she becomes the target of bad press. Other than that, she won't do anything. And by the way, my successor, we get along really well. He sends me documents. We discuss the case because I have a lien on the case. So I have a financial interest in him getting as much money as possible. So I'm willing to try the case with him, help him on whatever he needs. But we have different styles, and I understood the social media aspect, but it was all part of the litigation strategy. It was not, I have 80 files. That was just one that had a lot of, this is how I could push her button. I have each defendant is different, and Erica, that's why I pushed her buttons. Sometimes I serve assignment orders on your business relationships, subpoenas. I sue people you give money to. I mean, there's other pressure points. Erica's best pressure point is attack the brand, keep pushing the button. But I got my, eventually my theatrics is not good for a conservative bankruptcy court, and I don't care. I mean, she tried to disqualify me twice, saying I talked too much about it, and the judge wrote a 30-page opinion saying it's never going to happen. She appealed and then dismissed the appeal.
What, if I remember correctly, you guys were slinging barbs. Like, she was getting personal in terms of like family, things like that.
Yeah, she went after my wife on Instagram.
Yeah, I didn't want to say that. But it was like really, it was like, wow, I couldn't believe that. So I guess in a way it's hurtful.
But it's all bullshit. There's not, if I saw her in the street, I'd give her a hug. There's no issue. No one's mad about it. It's all acting.
This is total BS. Wild. You would give her a hug if you saw her in the street. And she would probably give you a hug. Oh
what?
My God. Okay. I see that she would probably give you a hug back. Like that.
Well, I wouldn't mean like a real hug. I'm just saying if I saw her and she said, "Hey, that was funny all those years," I wouldn't be like, negative. Why? Who cares? It's a lawsuit. Yeah. It's about money. I'm not indicting her. I'm suing her. So again, I wanted her to just pay voluntarily. That's why for a little period we had a detente, because you get more things with honey than with vinegar. I mean, that, like, you don't need, I already showed her I could be mean Ronald. I wanted to be nice Ronald.
So even when you personalize something, that's a strategy more than something designed to hurt, because it's
why am I going to get mad at someone I've only deposed? Other than that, I have no relationship with her. I'm not mad. I'm trying to get her to pay. Well,
who knows? Maybe you love Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and you don't like how she treats Sutton. Maybe it's personal for you. It's not personal for me.
It's actually not. The earrings were personal, but that was one of the great. I mean, I knew she was devastated when she couldn't get her earrings back, and all the buyers she had show up were outbid by that buyer. So I'm just letting you know that part was enough. I mean, after that, there was nothing to talk about. Seriously. The earrings was the greatest coup.
I mean, that was insane. That was like 3 years ago, 3 years ago. Anyways, the final thing I wanted is just for the audience, you mentioned at the very beginning, is that you did have a conversation with Tom Girardi years ago. I forgot how many years. Can you refresh the audience's memory that might not have heard you the first time, what that was? Because that always blew me away.
And I have it posted online. You know, they say I got a call on my cell phone and it said Tom Girardi, like in the service transfer. I'm like, this is the night before Erica's depot. And he says, the beat goes on. And I'm like, Mr. Girardi? He's like, yeah. He's like, so, you know, Erica had nothing to do with this. And I said, okay, well, that's why we're deposing her. And I had a whole long conversation. And then I got out my phone and taped it because I was out of state. So it was perfectly legal. And I taped the whole call. And, you know, and so basically I knew right then he wasn't as out of it as everyone was saying, because why is he calling me? How would he even know to call me? That's pretty.
Because this was after he was in an assisted living facility.
He called me from the assisted living. Exactly.
But
wild. I didn't get involved in his criminal case. I could have given that information to the government, but no one asked. So I didn't ingest myself to push the scale. And I figured they'd convict him. But I mean, I could have given them that. It would have been a devastating phone call because it was way after he claimed dementia. There was already a probate order, but I felt like that wasn't my role, is to push the scale. They're smart enough to find me if they wanted to, and I would have given it to them, but no one ever asked.
You can find out way more about Mr. Richards at ronaldrichards.com. I'll put all his social as well, which, by the way, it doesn't seem like you tweet as much as you used to. I saw your tweet today, and that's what reminded. I was like, oh, I'm going to email Ronald.
I mean, it's at Ronald Richards on Twitter and at Attorney Ronald Richards on Instagram. Here's the thing. I do tweet when there's something interesting, but I feel like I don't want to over-tweet. So, like, I'm going to tweet I tweeted the trustee's supplemental response. I'm going to tweet Erica's response, but I don't want to tweet just for the sake of tweeting, because I have sort of sophisticated viewers and I don't want to blow up their page with a bunch of random tweets. I've tweeted sometimes on, you know, Middle East. I put up Trump's indictment today. I mean, I do put up stuff when it's important on stuff that I could talk about, but I'm not just going to tweet like, hey, I don't like what Kamala Harris said this afternoon. Like, I don't just put up stream of conscious tweets. I like document tweets. So
you're not like, this is the great steak. I really love food. Like, nothing like that.
Exactly. I don't do that. So when there's something going on, believe me, I tweet about it. But like, that tweet I did today, let me just tell you, it's funny you said that. The tweet I did today got 20. It's already got 43,000
impressions.
Views, which is a lot for a normal tweet of mine. And so, yes, if it's important, I put up the tweet. But I don't want to over tweet because it is. I'm not a tweeter. Like, my page is for lawyers and people that are interested in housewives, and I feel they respect the fact that every 6 seconds I'm not tweeting about something. And so when I tweet, I want them to read it, and so that's why I don't over tweet. But no, the reason why I haven't tweeted as much, to get back to your question succinctly, is there wasn't a lot in the case for 6 months. The expert for the trustee had COVID, a back problem, and so there wasn't a lot of litigation action. And then Girardi's criminal case, I tweeted a couple things on that, and then we had the conviction today, and of course there's stuff I'll tweet about, but the civil cases is what I follow. But a lot of that slowed down because this stupid thing with the earrings and whether it's property of the state has slowed that case to a screeching halt. But now I think it's going to prop back up because the judge will rule in September, and then hopefully my successor will go back to the $25 million case and end this already, because that's really the case we got to go to trial on. That is the big case.
Well, the wheels of justice move very slow, but finally, in your opinion, the justice was served. Was there anything that surprised you, or do you think this is exactly what you had expected and the best case for justice with this conviction?
Well, I thought that it was the best case for justice because I don't believe that Girardi was criminally innocent. So I think they got the right decision. However, I think that it's unfortunate that his illness caused him to not follow his lawyer's advice and not testify. It would have made the case closer, because how is he going to help himself as a lawyer? Juries, hold lawyers to really high standards, or they hate lawyers. Both, they probably hate them and hold them to a high standard. So I'm thinking, how is he helping? So he's better just to sit there and do this and shake and do all the things you would, all your stereotypes about a dementia person. He should have drooled, had a little bib, wet his pants, do whatever he's got to do to have dementia symptoms. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not look good. Shake in there every day. That would, I don't know why he broke the strategy of his trial, except, he just couldn't contain himself. There was times he told the prosecutor to F off in the case.
Yeah, I saw that.
Pre-trials. So that didn't help him either. I mean, again, no client control. Client control, two things will make you lose a case very quickly. A bad lawyer that doesn't have good client control. So if you can't control your client to do the things that will give you the best chance of winning, and the client thinks they know best, most of the time that's going to be a bad outcome for the client, because they don't understand the game they're playing. This is not their profession. And I think people have to appreciate, trial lawyers a little better.
Yeah, and this was just a public defender assigned to him, right? This wasn't...
Yeah, a team of public defenders, but they're good. The public defenders are good.
Yeah. Well, this is a sad end. I guess we still have a little bit more to go, but this is what it all comes down to. And Erica Jayne was not there once. We didn't expect her to be, but who knows if they are still in any sort of contact, but I would imagine not. So, Mr. Ronald Richards, thank you so much. I really
still
do
married to him, Ryan. I mean, it's
well, that's all tied up because of the bankruptcy, right? They can't get divorced.
No, she doesn't want to get divorced. She just let the case sit there because she doesn't want to have to pay spousal support. She'd have to pay him big spousal support now.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that.
And he's too stupid and has too much incapacity to activate his divorce. I mean, if he had any guardian really watching out for him, they would make a motion for support, because Erica clearly has the ability to support him, but she's not.
Well, yeah, I mean, he supported her all these years. Now she can support him, but I guess that's not what's going to happen.
How the tables will turn, but for some reason, no one's doing that. I don't know why. Maybe I'll call his office and take it on pro bono for him so he can get a spousal support order. That's what he really needs.
Well, if law doesn't work out for you, you could be the next Don Rickles. I think you could roast somebody pretty good. So
okay, well,
it's always been a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for taking the time with us today, man.
I'm glad you're doing well, Ryan. I've watched your meteoric rise, and I'm very proud of you and glad that you still have me on.
Thank you. And tell your family I said hi.
Okay, thank you.